Hey, John. Hey, buddy.
JK.
Hey guys, how are you?
Hey,
How you
good,
guys doing?
good.
Hey, before we start talking about the game, what was the atmosphere like up there at Gillette?
Oh, subdued.
Kind of dead?
And
Yeah.
and it's funny. I was talking to our Patriots reporter about that before the game, and he was just talking about just how different it is going to games there now. And when you've had the level of success they had for 2 decades, it's kind of natural. But I think there's just a reality that's kind of set in up here, and certainly at the game where they know the team isn't very good. There were definitely a lot of boos, and you wonder about the direction of where this program is headed.
Even at the start of the game, it was kind of dead?
Yeah, definitely. There's just not the same energy. I mean, it's a 2-6 team against a 3-5 team.
Right.
So you kind of go from there, and they know that this team isn't very good, and they're not sold on Mac Jones. So I think there's just a lot that goes into it, and you're used to seeing Tom Brady for 2 decades, and now this. So yes, it was. I mean, there was some, but it was subdued to compare to what it's been in the past.
John, we've been talking about this stat that you tweeted 12 hours ago. It's making the rounds on the Twitters. In the last 5 games, Sam Howell has thrown for 1,510 yards. That's the most in the NFL. Mm-hmm. He's also thrown for 10 touchdowns during that span, tied for most. The other 2 quarterbacks on the list, Tua and Hurts. Howell has 4 picks in this time, same as Hurts, and 1 less than Tua. Because I know that a lot of Commanders fans are like, the pick was so horrible, it was awful, but it's a mistake that both young quarterbacks make and quarterbacks with a lot of experience make. If they throw the ball enough, and Sam's throwing it more than anybody, they're going to throw picks from time to time.
They are. That one was really bad, though.
Yeah, it was bad. It wasn't great.
That one was, and it's funny because I kind of went up to him after the game and in the locker room, and I kind of made a little bit of a joke about the run, referred to him as Lamar Jackson or something like that. And then the first thing he says, yeah, but I followed it up with the worst play of my career. Mm-hmm. So he understands, but I think that's what is good about him. He understands that, and that's but he comes back from that stuff. And so yes, everybody's going to throw a pick. And we've seen boneheaded plays at the end of halves in this year from other teams. You know what I mean? So throughout the league, and so every quarterback's going to have that knucklehead play. Or what were you thinking? That one is you watch the replays. I don't know what he was thinking, but it happened, and he came back. And that's what I think they like most about him is the way the resiliency, the demeanor, et cetera. But that was pretty bad.
Overall, you have to be pleased, though. I was telling the guys that at this point, I think I have a pretty good handle on Hal's skill set. It's just a matter of, being consistent and doing it week after week. But, I mean, he's made so many tight window throws, so many nice touchdown throws, so many third down. I mean, they were great on third down yesterday. So many great third down throws, so many big runs that I think I have a pretty good grasp of what this kid can do. Just got to be a little bit more consistent. The
consistency, and that's after 10 games, you're not going to have that.
Right.
No quarterback does. And very few quarterbacks who've come into the league probably have thrown as much as he has. I mean, you look at some other quarterbacks who become great and what they're surrounded by when they become starters, right? And it's certainly a lot more than this. And with the protection, with, you're not having a coach having you drop back 50 times a game. I mean, that tends to be absurd. But, it certainly helps speed the development of him as a passer. What I really liked yesterday, and this is where it's it's all about measuring the growth. And you're right, we've seen a lot from him. And to me, it's not, and even this summer in the offseason, this kid's going to be, quality. He can be a quality starter. It's just what level can he get to? Because there's so many attributes that you like from the study, from the toughness, from the smarts, all that stuff before you get to, he has a good arm. There's all these other qualities that he has that tend to translate to success. It's just a matter of the level. And I think what you're seeing the last couple of weeks, I think there's a little bit more trust in the protection. And I think that's made a difference for him. But he also, yesterday, what I really liked is a couple of times where he's the way he's keeping his eyes down the field despite getting hit so many times. Some of those are on him, of course, but the bottom line is he's getting hit a lot, but he's still keeping his eyes downfield. He's not sitting there looking at the rush when it comes. And he had a couple plays where directly because of that, there was a 26-yarder to Dotson where it's a decent pocket, but he takes time, starts to move to his left, sees that he can't, and just unloads a perfect strike to him as he's tripping over one of his linemen who's trying to block. So, but that it stems from the eyes downfield, and that's the progress. I think that's one of the things they really like about what they've seen from him. So, yeah, we've seen a lot from him to say this kid can play in the league. It's just a matter of to what level, and then if the season's all about him, what do they think at the end of the season? And then if let's say they make a regime change here, what does the next group, if this group isn't here, what does the next group think of him? Will he continue to get those opportunities, for whomever, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, certainly, the kid can play.
John, are you surprised by the level of involvement of Jameson Crowder? When he was signed, I was like, okay, punt returns, that makes sense. 13 targets in the last two games, including 6 yesterday. He scored a touchdown in the Philly game. I'm surprised by how much he's been involved, and on a side note, Byron Pringle getting involved in the offense too.
Well, and Pringle, obviously, Bieniemy knows him from KC, but with Crowder as well, the Curtis Samuel injury has gotten him more snaps the last couple of weeks. The guy can still run routes. I mean, he was always a good route runner, and he's quick in and out of his cuts, and that helps. But he's been a really good pickup for them for that reason. I mean, the punt returns have been. He's had a couple longer ones, obviously the one really long one in Atlanta, but a couple other ones. But he's done a nice job with that. But also, he can still run routes. And the funny thing is, there are a couple times on some of those screens where his quickness getting to a block even, where it's he's not a big guy. You just got to get there and budge the guy, obstruct the guy. And he did that. I think on one of the Gibson screens for 10 yards, he did that, where it's he just nudges him enough to create the opening because of it, he's got the quickness to get there. And I think that's where he helps. But he's a smart guy, knows how to run routes, and knows the plays. So he's been valuable for them.
What'd you make of the defensive line without Chase Young and Montez Sweat?
I want to go back and look at a little bit more because I know there wasn't a ton of pressure. I know that Mac Jones gets rid of the ball. He's one of the faster quarterbacks in the NFL getting rid of the ball. So I want to see, was it as much because of that? There were definitely times where they weren't getting it. I thought they were going to maybe try to create a few more pressure situations, like a couple of years ago when they didn't have Sweat and Young. They used a little bit more blitzing on third downs, things like that. And so but I mean, the pressure wasn't there, but I mean, I want to see more to see why was that. And I don't have the good answer for it now because I've been focusing so much on Sam this morning that I haven't watched that enough. But during the game, I do know Mac gets rid of the ball fast. That's part of their game. But they were taking more shots down the field, which suggests that you're getting more time in the pocket.
JK, the roughing the passer on KJ was the worst call I've ever seen. Did the guys have anything to say about that after the game in the locker room?
I think they would agree with you. I think they would absolutely agree with you. And there were times where guys were saying things, and even Rivera kind of had to bite his lip during the press conference to say, basically he didn't say it, but it's I don't want to get fined because if I say something, that's what's going to happen. But yes, that was a definite topic. The good thing is the officials followed it up with a missed pass interference call on the dropped interception by Forbes, where the guy was hugging him as he was trying to catch the ball. So, but yeah, that roughing, I don't know, and I know, we heard the TV clip during the game where Dean Blandino said, this is what the league wants them to call. He doesn't like it, but it's what the league, but it's a football play. Yeah. I don't know what, I watch it over and over. We heard the explanation from the referee. I don't know what he could have done differently. I think there's a point where, at some point, you have to apply logic to some of these calls, and logic doesn't apply to that one. I don't know. I mean, and funny, the sad thing for this guy is it's just the first time getting action, and he has a good, clean shot. He causes a fumble, and it's what? So,
what sucks is at some point, a bad call like that is going to cost a team a game. Now, it could be in the regular season, it could be the postseason, but that's what's so sad about it, and that could have cost them a game.
It could have, because that was a huge momentum play.
Oh, yeah.
And, I mean, huge. And that was a point swing. And so, yes, and I think we've seen that in the playoffs before where there's head-scratching calls like that where, I mean, those are massive penalties. And, if you're a fan of a team, anytime you watch a game, you see a guy get sacked, the first thing you're doing is you're holding your breath because is there a flag on that? Are they going to somehow interpret that as roughing? And, I agree with you. That I don't know that that's going to change because I think this has been a point of contention for players and others for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
But it's certainly, I don't know. It's unfortunate. I don't understand it. And I don't.
Yeah, they got to correct it somehow. All right, before we let you go, we're going to talk about the playoff chances in the next segment. And, 4-5, it's obviously not a great record, but in the NFC, you're right on the bubble. And you're seeing, obviously some of these teams that are 5-4, if the playoffs started today, they'd be in. The Vikings would be the 7th seed at 5-4. Now, Seattle's going to be difficult, all right, especially since they got bludgeoned by the Ravens yesterday. But that's not going to be an easy game going all the way out there and playing. They obviously have a home field advantage. And then they get the Giants the following week, possibly with Tommy DeVito at quarterback. So how you feeling over the next couple of weeks?
I think you've got to win one of these types of Seattle games or upset someone at home because they have the Dolphins coming up. They have the Cowboys coming up. So you have to in order for them to realistically not so much talk about the players, but realistically think they can make it, you've got to win a game like this. And they haven't done that. So, can they do that? And when they do that, then I think you can start to say, oh, okay, they have a real shot. Right now, so many teams are within that cluster that, you have to spring a win like that to me.
Right.
You got San Francisco here later in the season. Can you beat a team like that you're not supposed to beat because that's the only, with their schedule, that's the only way they're going to get there in the second half.
You got to steal one.
You have to, right,
yeah,
exactly.
Steal one, right.
And it's funny because Seattle, they got killed. Then part of me is oh, that's really, how do they respond to that? Then the other side is there's a reason why they got beat bad. I mean, they're a good team, but they're certainly not infallible, but that's a hard game. But you have to win a game like that. You just have to, because otherwise it's going to be, right now it's still trending at 7-10, 8-9. Can you win one of those to bump you up a little bit and get some momentum? And that's where those Eagles games would have done that. And that's what, or not losing to the Bears and Giants.
Yeah, the Giant game especially, yeah.
Yeah, it was. But you win a game like that, and then I think you can start thinking, oh, okay, now they can maybe do something. And they've done that in the last couple of years too. They beat Philly the one year, they beat Pittsburgh the one year. So there's a history of them doing that. Now you have to do it.
All right, JK. Thanks for the time.
Thank you so much, John.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it, buddy. Okay.
It's John Keim, ESPN.com. Jason brings up the playoff picture.
Yeah.
So let's just open up the conversation, and they have to win some games to get in the playoffs. But here's what your NFC picture looks like right now. The seventh wild card team is the Minnesota Vikings. They don't have Kirk Cousins the rest of the way. They started
4 straight wins.
They started the kid from BYU. He suffered a concussion.
Yep.
Josh Dobbs came in, didn't take one practice rep with the team all week, and he leads them on a game-winning drive. They win the game. They are 5-4.
Should be a fireable offense for Arthur Smith.
Right now in the South, the NFC South, the Saints are 5-4. They're atop the division. You've got the Falcons at 4-5, just like the Commanders. Of course, Commanders beat the Falcons. They've turned to Taylor Heineke as the quarterback. I would assume Heineke's going to start again next week, but who knows with Arthur Smith?
Who knows?
And to me, that's really about it. Battling. I mean, if you go through the rest of the NFC, Giants aren't going to sniff a wild card. The Bears aren't going to sniff the Packers. You can tell me the Packers are still in at 3-5. They stink.
They stink.
The only reason they won yesterday is they were playing a team worse than them with Rippon at quarterback.
Panthers are 1-7. I mean, I guess the Bucs could get back in it with Baker Mayfield at 3-5. Baker's actually playing pretty good football if you look at it.
But they've lost 4 straight.
Yeah, they've lost 4 straight. So I think and the Rams are 3-6. They've been exposed the last several weeks. Cardinals are 1-8. So I think that last playoff spot comes down to Minnesota, Washington,
Seattle.
Well, I'm going to put Seattle in there. I'm going to put the top 6 in there, and then I'd say I guess Tampa and Atlanta.
Yeah. Well, yeah, based on the math.
Those are the teams.
They're in the mix.
So let's come back, open up the phone lines at 800-636-1067. Do you think this Commanders team sells a legitimate shot at the playoffs? They beat the Patriots, who have just 2 wins, 20-17. And a bit of a nail-biter. Probably shouldn't have been a nail-biter, but it was a nail-biter at the end. Mm-hmm. Mac Jones throws that ball. If it's caught by Juju and not picked off, they passed the line that the broadcast had. They were in field goal range.
Yep.
But it was picked off. It's a win. It is a victory Monday. What are your thoughts on the possibilities of playoffs? Are they still in this thing?